It's a dream team. It's a dream team right here.
Yeah.
I've been working in the film industry for about 10 years now, having had the privilege to meet Michelle through an acquaintance, as well as Simone on a different project. Michelle connected with me and was like, hey, I have this project in mind. I think you'd be a good fit for it. I'm trying to get a bunch of young creatives together to get a story that's been really important to me created. So of course, I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to participate in something that is meaningful that you'd like. And honestly, it's been an absolute privilege to work with these ladies. It's honestly been so much fun.
Hello, I'm Rachel, Rachel Malloy. I've been involved in film for about 10 years now. This is the first time that I've been able to be on a project of this scale. I find it very exciting. What drew me to the project was where I was introduced to Michelle and the team and the script. I knew it was a blessing to be able to be part of something like this that would have such an effect on this scale. I'm just super grateful that I get to be a part of it.
What drew you to the story?
It was very person-based. When you see homelessness depicted in movie, it's always kind of like a side quest that the hero character stumbles upon. It's just like, oh, there's homelessness and it happens and like, I'm gonna be the one to save the day. And like, that's just not our reality, right? We have an epidemic. So just to be able to like really put people and faces to it in a way that won't solve the problem overnight, but it'll be a start, that in itself is like an extremely important step in the right direction, in my opinion.
Storytelling makes the invisible visible. When we hear terms like what Rachel was saying, something like the systemic issues that Season of Drought is about, our brains typically go to like policy, politics, statistics, and things like that really feel big and abstract. But when you tell a story, like a human story, suddenly it's not a system anymore. It's Devin, it's Danny, it's the look on someone's face when they're handed Narcan instead of being written off. It becomes real, right? Storytelling gives people a way in. It makes you care about someone you might have overlooked in real life. For myself as a writer, what I can lean into is if I can make you feel something, if I can pull you into a world that maybe you've never lived in, but now you can see, just maybe you'll walk back into your own world and treat people a little differently. And that's the power of storytelling. It bridges the gap between the system and the soul.
With that being said, why the title Season of Drought? What does that mean to you as a writer?
I'd like to kick this one off, if you guys don't mind. Season of Drought, it's like the physical absence of water or resources, but I think our approach to it was more about a spiritual and an emotional depletion, right? It's about people walking around bone dry, trying to survive in a system and cycle that's never poured back into them. When I hear a title like that, I think it's the kind of drought you can't see at first glance, a dry spell of compassion, of justice. The characters in this short film are all in some version of that drought. Devin, obviously, but also Danny, who's spiritually parched in her own way, trying to figure out what it means to serve a community she's never actually really seen until now. As a writer, I think it's powerful because a drought implies a season, meaning it's temporary. There's an ache to it, yes, but also possibility that rain could still come, right? That something could still grow. And I think that's where we're trying to tap into here, that the quiet fight to hold on to until the season shifts.
When you're dealing with a drought, it does not discriminate to who it can affect. With that in mind, it can happen to anybody. Anybody can be affected.
Piggybacking off of what Hayden and Rachel have already said, when you think of a season of drought, the first thing that comes to mind is, when will the drought end? A drought isn't comfortable. We want to get people to start thinking, okay, it's a season of drought. So what do we have to do to survive, not only through this, but is there anything we can do to make it easier? What do we need to do with each other? How can we show compassion? How can I help you and you help me as we try to get through this season?
Season is only temporary. And I think each of you made a great point. It won't be trouble always. So what was the most surprising process during this experience as a writer?
This is actually my first time writing in a larger group versus doing any solo writing. I guess it was less surprising and more so like the feedback and revisions, like the revision process, I wouldn't say it's long, but taking everyone's ideas into consideration and realizing, oh, what I wrote here, this is how it could be tweaked. Like the conversations we were having, you wrote this, but it might be construed this way. Maybe that's not how that goes, so let's change this. The constant improvement and everyone bringing their knowledge to the table and just critiquing each other and making the project what it is now, absolutely wonderful.
Oh yeah. On top of like script repair, this collaboration, us kind of bouncing ideas off of each other, we try to approach this respectfully as well. Like this topic is something that is not a lighthearted topic. So we strive to make sure that we did check our research, that we did try to be considerate about all of the people that are going to be kind of identified so we're not exploitative. And what I didn't expect was how much this rewriting and this research would become so emotionally costly. Like the more we got into the mind of Devin, the more we got into the mind of Danny and even Jason, the more we realized it wasn't just about a story of homelessness, but it was about the system we stopped seeing, the people we stopped seeing, and how even the people who want to help, like Danny, for example, are trapped in this cycle of well-meaning but ineffective gestures. I found myself writing scenes that didn't just move the story forward, but they hit me in the gut. Like moments where it wasn't just a space for a stereotypical happy ending, like where girls most people wouldn't even look at and make eye contact with ends up being the only reason somebody else in our story survives. It started as editing, I think. We got an idea, we got the bones, but it turned into a reckoning. It wasn't just about beauty and stuff, it was about the process of change. And sometimes the story doesn't just change the page, I think it changed all of us.
I agree. I found as we kept progressing, the demand and ability to be unapologetic with the subject matter and to learn to be able to not only depend on that from you guys, but also to expect it. With that intensity comes the feeling that we know other people will feel too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a dream team. It's a dream team right here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm loving it. Those stories went home with you. You're thinking about this person because it hit home for me. Seeing family members who were homeless as well, and not having that understanding then I'm starting to see now working on this project. Season of Drought touches on 3 different things: displacement, neglect, and atonement. Which of those themes relate to you?
I'm always going to bring it back to this story, the homeless man that I encountered literally before I got asked to be on this project. For me, it's going to be atonement. At the end of the day, the biggest part, especially coming on to this project for me, was realizing that I need to humble myself in order to learn. That was a very hard pill to swallow, to realize that you're in a privileged position to do something. It's realizing and helping me go through and continually humble myself and put myself in the position of, you are helping, you are giving people a platform so that they can shine and they can share their stories, that it's not about you.
I'm going to second Simone. For me, it was atonement as well. I lost my father during the period of time we were all collaborating. Or for somebody who's not experiencing grief, just watching the world get heavier, like the news isn't sharing good news. You start to ask yourself, have I done enough? Did I miss something? Could I have done more? And that's what this story pulls at. Atonement isn't about guilt. It's about recognizing your role in something, whether you were active or passive, and making a choice to move differently. And that's what we saw in Danny. She's not perfect and she doesn't have the answers, but she tries and she takes a step. And I think that's all any of us can do when we feel like we've fallen short. Just try and walk back with integrity. Writing through that lens, especially after losing my father during this process, made it even more personal for me. I was wrestling with my own version of atonement, of trying to hold on to parts of him that taught me compassion and action, and to put that into the script. Yeah, atonement is the thread I was holding on to in tackling this project.
It's atonement for me too, but we initially didn't have atonement. Do you guys remember?
Yeah.
It wasn't atonement. And this was a long, serious, needle picking discussion. And I think I can't remember what it was before, but it was a matter of just looking in a thesaurus and picking something slightly different. The argument that I put across was people will find so many ways to seek out that atonement, but they might have this goal in mind of contractual fulfillment, like I'm doing my part, but it's not guaranteed that you're going to get that payout at the end. Yes, we can do things, but we don't know if it's going to make that difference that we want to see. All we have to do is stay the course.
Why do you think, as a writer, storytelling is such a powerful tool to address systemic issues?
Storytelling makes the invisible visible. We were talking about systemic issues and how it's like a big picture item, but how do we drill this down with our characters? It gives people a way into these lives that they might have overlooked. You know, you're walking down the sidewalk, you've picked up your coffee from a shop, there's somebody begging, you just walk by them. You don't even make eye contact. Some people might even feel uncomfortable about making eye contact, because when you make that connection with somebody and you're feeling that empathy, that can impact people. And some people are not comfortable being uncomfortable. And society, it's all about our comforts. I think that's what we leaned into. If we can make you feel something and pull you into that world, then maybe you'll walk back into your world and make a difference.
There are people who would avoid homeless areas because they don't want to feel the guilt of like I feel bad that they're homeless, but at the same time, I don't want to actually do anything to help. Storytelling, people originally see it as entertainment. That's kind of what people kind of go in thinking, like, I'm going to see a movie or a documentary or something like that. I'm going in to be entertained. But then they get into it, and now you're being taken through with the story and characters, and now you're feeling something, right? So we unintentionally draw you in where you didn't want to feel uncomfortable, but now you're faced to confront that side of yourself.
Especially with the formation of how the project is documentary, short film, and feature film, even showing people the trailer, just like how you mentioned before, it hits. It makes people feel something. Like, I haven't talked to a person yet that hasn't felt something watching like that 2-minute trailer. That is power. In 2 minutes, how many times have you watched something on Instagram, scrolled 2-minute videos and cared?
It takes caring, it takes feeling to lead to policy. You have to care enough to address that issue. And like you said, we don't want to sensationalize it. You know, it's nothing glamorous about being homeless. It's just telling their story to the point where it leads to some type of justice, some type of action. That's what drew me to this project. It's just not telling the story. It's actually community driven once people have a chance to view it. What do you think stories like this can do to help change the perception of neglect and justice in society?
Stories like Season of Drought serve as a mirror, you know, and not a glamorous one, a crack, uncomfortable, honest mirror, and that's important. We're so used to seeing justice portrayed as clean cut, good guys, bad guys, case closed, but real life doesn't work like that. And justice isn't always delivered with a gavel, you know? Sometimes it looks like a girl saving a man because no one else bothered, you know? Sometimes it looks like a cop questioning the very system she signed up to serve. Neglect isn't just about physical absence. It's emotional, it's societal, it's institutional. And stories like this one, and I'm sure there are other stories like this one, force people to sit with the discomfort of what that is. And it makes them ask themselves, what do we look away from? Who do we fail to see? And most importantly, what would we do if it were us? Stories like this don't just inform, but they shift perceptions, and they soften the heart that have grown really callous, especially in this day and age. And they put names and faces to issues we often reduce to headlines. And they help people realize justice isn't always about punishment, but sometimes it's about compassion. And that shifts, it reframes, and it's the first step towards change, which is what I think we all want to see.
I agree with her.
Yeah, it definitely reminds me of, my mother used to tell me this saying that if a dog is laying on a nail and he continues to lay on it, and I would ask her like, well, why would he lay on the nail? He said, well, it doesn't hurt enough to actually move, right? So the point is for it to prick you enough to do something. It takes uncomfortability and us feeling bad about something enough to actually move it.
We're all based in different cities, okay? So like I'm based in Canada, so is Rachel, but we're in different major cities in this country. You guys are down in the US. What unifies us is the idea that like homelessness is an epidemic. Drug addiction is an epidemic. This is an underserved community. They need help, they need resources, but cost of living is going up. Money is going somewhere. but it is not being used to help human beings. Most people are one paycheck away from being there. Cost of living has skyrocketed for everybody. But what about the cost of compassion? Why has that become so expensive when it's just an action of being able to reach out to your fellow man, your fellow human being, and just being like, hey, are you okay? Women being human trafficked, which is also a topic in our story, human trafficking. Here in Canada, there's a hand symbol. Okay, you have to do this behind your back, because screaming out for help doesn't necessarily guarantee that you will be helped. It means that the person who is trafficking you, who has you, might just be like, no, she's crazy. Don't listen to her. This is my wife, and move you away. So you need to know this hand gesture and do it behind your back to be able to, maybe somebody will know and be able to help you. How have we gotten this far?
It starts with conviction. When somebody is convicted, they take action to actually do something. And Hayden, you said something. People think justice is with a gavel. Justice is more than just writing a check to help the homeless. It's actually working with them, being out there with them, listening to their stories, and becoming more personable. And they become a friend in some instances. That's justice. It's beyond generosity and the check. Yeah. And that's not mine. That's a book from Generosity to Justice by Darren Walker. How do you think Season of Drought will fit into larger conversations in society?
It'll make people reflect. And once you start reflecting on something, you can't necessarily just, I reflected on it, now put it away in the back of my brain. It's always gonna come back up at some point. And it's that consistent little reminder that's hopefully gonna push you to act. 62% of people have never actively researched about homelessness, even educating yourself. That's doing something.
We are in a very interesting time in history to look into our communities and see how we can be of service and how to help others. This will help with that.
Season of Drought sits at the intersections of conversations that have already been bubbling in our society and our general discourse. Homelessness is on the rise, overdose deaths climbing, and yet somehow empathy seems to be shrinking. Why is that? You know, this film doesn't pretend to have all the answers. I think that's important that we address, but it does ask the right questions. What does accountability really look like? What does help actually mean? What do we owe each other as human beings? The story also pushes back on the idea that the systemic issues are too big to touch. It says, yes, the system is broken, but that doesn't mean we're powerless. It shows what happens when just one person decides to stop looking away, when someone chooses to really see the people that society ignores. Season of Drought isn't just a timely film, but it's a necessary film. Short film, feature film. It's part of a broader movement calling for humanity, nuance, and action. And honestly, I'm proud that we were all able to contribute to that conversation in one way or another.
What has been the most exciting part about bringing this project to life?
Actually being active. I think that's been the most rewarding part. Getting out in your community and helping, seeing what's going on. It does something to the heart. Even working on this project, it's changed a lot of me fundamentally, honestly. I find myself being a lot more compassionate and I want to help more.
For me, what excites me the most is the opportunity to create something that feels real. That doesn't necessarily shy away from the ugly parts, the pain, the injustice, the small moments of grace in the middle of all of that, but that still finds a way to offer hope. There's something powerful about writing a story like this, which could easily fall into stereotypes or surface level drama, giving characters like Devin and Danny depths, flaws, choices that feel authentic. It's not about saving anyone per se, but it's about seeing them. And for me, that shift in perspective is everything. From the writing table to the screen, it's a collaborative effort rooted in passion, lived experience, the shared conviction, and just being able to be part of this kind of storytelling, that lights me up. Absolutely.
What excites me most is that I've, through this, been able to give back and still continue to be of service in this realm and seeing it make a difference even before it hits big screen. The light that's being shined on this issue right now, the people that have joined this project since its inception, it's been incredible. It's been a blessing and it's only going to continue to grow. And I'm excited to see what this grows into.
Well, this has been an exciting dialogue with the writers team. It's been a privilege to work on this project, to see not just the production, but to be a part of helping someone change their life in a positive way, transitioning them from being homeless to being stable. So I thank each one of you for joining me today, and I look forward to more discussions and the wrap up of Season of Drought.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Touch one, teach one, heal one. Homelessness is not an individual problem. It's a global epidemic that needs individual attention. Visit seasonofdrought.com to see how you can help.